We will move straight on, and our next presenter is Markus Klawitter from the Free University of Berlin in Germany.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, oh, it's full of people. I'm happy to present you the results of my doctoral thesis with the topic to bandage or not bandage, the curative effect of bandaging digital dermatitis lesions. What is digital dermatitis? Digital dermatitis is one of the most infectious claw disease that can lead to lameness and that produces painful ulcerative lesions, like you can see here in this picture. The usual treatment of digital dermatitis is made collectively with foot baths containing copper sulfate and formalin, like you heard before, or they are treated individually with topical antibiotic sprays like oxytetracycline or chlortetracycline. And also some of the people apply a bandage afterwards. But why are there just some people and not all of them? Because there are different opinions about the effect of bandaging lesions. There are people that say bandaging lesions has a positive effect on the lesion, like it gives a prolonged exposure to the treatment and it ensures lesion cleanliness and safety and protects against slurry and injury. But researchers against bandaging view bandages as potentially harmful because it provides hospital environments for anaerobes, especially treponema. Like you heard before, these are the most important bacteria in digital dermatitis, and you are doing a wrap out of it. You are really doing these environments that we love. And if the bandages are left on too long, it can cause ischemic tissue damage and necrosis, and bandages are expensive in material and time-consuming for the farmer. So that led us to the question that we wanted to have a closer look on this topic. And we made a clinical randomized trial on a farm with 800 dairy cows in the area around Berlin. And these cows lived on a freestyle house, and walked on concrete floor, and they had a routine claw trimming 2 to 3 times a year. And if one of these cows had a digital dermatitis lesions bigger than 2 centimeters in diameter, and it was painful and red, like you can see in this picture, then they were included into the trial. And these cows were not allowed to get treated with systemic antibiotic, or if they were treated with hoof baths, they dropped out of our trial. Here. What we did, at first we cleaned the hoof. We used water and soap and a brush, and we dried the lesion afterwards. And then in the first arm of the study, we applied antibiotic spray containing chlortetracycline. We applied the first layer of the spray on the lesion. We were waiting for 30 seconds to get it dry, and then we applied a second layer. And afterwards, the cows were randomly assigned into a bandaged or a non-bandaged group. Later, to say about these bandages, we used a standardized technique. So we had a special technique for this bandage, how we bandage them, how the bandage is made in different layers and so on. And it was always performed in the same procedure. And it was always performed by the same person, me. So, that ensured the methodological reliability. In the second arm of the study, we used a non-antibiotic gel that was actually pretty new at that time. The name is intrahufe gel from the Netherlands. It's a non-antibiotic gel containing copper and zinc chelate. And we brushed a nearly 2 millimeters layer of this gel directly onto the lesion. And then the cows were also randomly assigned into the bandaged or the non-bandaged group. So how did we measure the curative effect, the healing process of his lesions? We made weekly evaluations up to 4 weeks, and the lesions were every time digitally photographed for changes in lesion size and diameter using a special software package called YellowMate. Here you can see in this picture, you can go around the lesion. Here you see sometimes greenish and reddish lines, and then it shows you the lesion size in square centimeters. And we also wanted to know if there's an impact of a bandage on the locomotion of the cows, because if you have a lesion, it's painful, we know, and when we put a bandage around, are the cows walking much better than we did before? So we also scored the locomotion. And we also used the M stage, the digital dermatitis stage described by Döpfer and Barry, like you saw before in the presentations. What are the results? What did we find? I know everybody want to know at first how many lesions healed, and I want to answer this question. So at first, I want to describe what was healed, what was the definition of healed for us, because there are different opinions in the papers. Some people just say we were healed, and they say as a definition of where healed, yeah, each stage of digital dermatitis that is not painful, that is not the acute M0 lesion like you see here in the middle, that's healed for us because it's not painful anymore. But we said, no, we really want to see healthy skin without any signs of digital dermatitis at all. So these are the so-called M0 lesions, like you see here. So just these lesions are healed for us, that you will see on the next page. So I'm thankful for Mr. Summer, who did all this statistical introduction. We also made a Kaplan-Meier graph and a survival analysis. And here you can see on the left side, the cows that were treated with an antibiotic spray. And you see the red, so they all started with an acute M2 lesion. And every time a cow healed, they dropped out of a study. So they were healed, the graph went down. More healed cows, the graph went down. So actually you can see easily that the lowest graph is the group with the most healed lesions. And these are the cows that had a CTC treatment and had a bandage applied. On the other side, you see the same thing. Here we used this non-antibiotic gel. And you see here, these are the non-bandaged cows. There are not that many cows that recovered. And here are the cows where a bandage was applied. So there was a highly significant difference between bandaged and not bandaged cows. Here you see a really colorful graph. It shows the different M stages. All started in the green column. That's the M2 lesion, the acute lesions. I don't have so much time to explain all the different M stages, so I make a long story short. So they all started at the same point. You can see here on the left side, it's the antibiotic spray, the non-bandaged and the bandaged group next to each other. And they just spread after these M2 lesions and the first treatment in all the different M stages that are existing. And if you just compare them to each other, you see, okay, there are pink M lesions in the non-bandaged and in the bandaged group. Then you see yellow ones in the non-bandaged and bandaged groups. You go up, green, green, blue, blue, dark blue, no dark blue. And we checked that also for the intrahoofed gel. So you see it here, and you saw these huge columns of dark blue columns, these lesions, and there were more or less none of them in the bandage groups. So what are these blue columns? These are the chronic lesions that Mr. Cook explained before, and he also said, you can see here the acute lesion, and you can put them into the chronic lesion. They are not painful anymore. The cows are walking normally, but these chronic lesions are still there. And why are they so important? Because on these chronic lesions, it's just a question of time. There will be a tiny red area again. And then this area can grow. And it can grow back to this big M2 lesion that's painful again. So that's really important. That's really important. So to eradicate these, the digital dermatitis on your farms, it's important to reduce these chronic M stages. So, these chronic M stages. So we also made a Kaplan-Meier graph and a survival analysis to see if there are differences in the survival without chronicity. And we found significant differences in the treatment if they were treated with a bandage or not a bandage. If there's a significant difference to become chronic. And we found, yes, there were significant differences. And we also wanted to answer the question, is there also an impact of the drug that was used? And we tested that, but the proportional hazard assumption of a Cox regression concluded the effect of healing to bandaging was important and not the actual drug treatment. So now it's not working? Oh, I broke it. Okay. Now here we are. As a conclusion, a well-applied bandage gives you a high percentage of healed digital dermatitis lesions, and it prevents acute painful lesions from developing into chronic lesions. Thank you. So, bandage lesions.
Great, thank you, Marcus. Definitely the most sinister presentation of the morning so far. We've got a question at the front. I've got a lot of hands. I'm afraid we'll only have quite time for a couple, but we'll make a start.
Stuart Carter, Liverpool. I'll be brief. Love the talk. Great stuff.
Thanks.
But you must notice that one of your supervisors actually uses bandages to induce the disease as well. The infection model that was set up by Dorothy Dopfer and Arturo Gomez actually put the organisms in and then kept them in with bandages.
Yes.
So you've got the devil in the deep blue sea there, I think.
You don't. What you don't know. I tried to convince Mrs. Dopfer. I was for 2 months in her research institute, and we made the data analysis together, and she was actually really skeptical at the beginning. She said, "Oh, bandages," and I don't like that. But then she saw these results, and she was, looks good. So, and
okay, we've got a question here, and then in the interest of not just my eye line, I'm going to go over there for the third question, and then I'm afraid we will have to move on, and you can catch up with Marcus after the presentation.
Yeah. Can you tell me exactly what material you used for the bandaging? What do you use, cotton wool or not? How long did you leave it on for?
So we left it on for 1 week, and I'm happy that you are asking this question. I'm prepared. That was the word. I'm prepared for this question. But I don't have so much time. So, I don't know. What? No, I want to go further. What?
They might have deleted your slides.
Okay, here we are. So at first, we applied. Here you see the lesion, okay? When we always made an ointment on it, afterwards we put a 10 cross 20 centimeters gauze square on it and covered it with cotton wool. And we started in the middle between both hoofs. And when we made a circular tour, afterwards now it's going automatically. Circular layers of cotton bandage was applied to caution food and hold the bandage in place. When we made a knot at the side, afterwards we used a tape to hold the bandage in place, but it was permeable for air. And then afterwards we used wood tar, to protect the bandage from slurry.
Okay, thank you. We must keep moving. Final question over there, someone.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We must move on. I know there's a lot of questions there. Please catch up with Marcus afterwards.